This is Sam Farber, radio play-by-play broadcaster for your Charlotte Hornets, and you're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM.
Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
And he's in the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's a more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
He doesn't.
No matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
And what a loaded rundown it is. Happy Final Four weekend. Happy WrestleMania weekend. This is The Rundown. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. Got a loaded show for you today here on WWBG 1470 AM and online at tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. You can also catch us on our YouTube channel. Rate and subscribe. We're growing that at youtube.com/at Tobacco Road Sports Radio, where you can catch this show, Franchise Players, Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, and much, much more from Tobacco Road Sports Radio across our multiple outlets where we currently are. A loaded show today. Brandon Blakney, our Tobacco Road basketball insider, will be with us here in just a bit. He will be talking Final Four, some of the surprises. Actually, the whole Final Four is a surprise. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll get into a little NBA as well. And in the second half hour of the show, it's a WrestleMania takeover. Tap Out and Touchdowns host Ryan Frick and Michael Davis from the Drop the Mic podcast and from Out of Pocket will be joining me in the second half hour, and we will preview the entire WrestleMania card. It's Saturday tonight and tomorrow, Sunday. We'll go through that. We'll go through our favorite wrestlers, favorite matches, finishers, all that good stuff. So if you're a pro wrestling mark, this will be the show for you. Kicking off today's rundown, though, he is from the Panthers Radio Network. Friend of the program, Jim Szoke, joining us here to talk a little Panther talk. What's going on, Jim? How you doing?
Doing well, Desmond. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm knee deep in Panther stuff here. It feels like every show that I've done or any hit that I've made had something to do with the Panthers, and the Panthers front office has had a lot to do with that, with the movement they've had, moving up to the number one pick, taking this traveling front office across America to different pro days for these quarterbacks. On Thursday, they were in Florida to see Anthony Richardson, which will complete the four that they went to go see. Alabama's Bryce Young, Ohio State's C.J. Stroud, and Kentucky's Will Levis. Out of the four quarterbacks at the top of this draft, apparently, Jim, which do you like the least?
That's a great question, Desmond. Who do you like the least? I don't know, because I haven't been there. So I'll be honest. I mean, I just think it's kind of unfair to go like deep dive. I'm not down there watching any of these four play. I would think if just looking at from where we sit, if you traded up to number one, you probably did it in the mind of C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. And like you said, they saw Anthony Richardson today. They've seen Will Levis last week in addition to the other two. So I would think that if you didn't want one of those two that I mentioned, you probably would have sat pat where you were at 9 and taken your chances, or maybe moved up a couple spots, but not all the way to number one if that was the goal. So my thought is, and we can be wrong, we've all been fooled before, but I believe C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young will be one of the two that they're going to take.
So let's start with those two. Give me, in your mind, the pros and the cons of selecting Bryce Young number one overall to the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I think, Bryce, is the guy that everyone thinks could be like one of these, generational quarterbacks based on his ability to scramble, in addition to his ability to process defenses and run offenses, quick release. Obviously, he's got high-level scrambling abilities to go with all that. Has a pro arm, maybe not the strongest arm of the four you mentioned there, but good enough for to make 90% of the throws that you'd have to make in this league. So I think that's Bryce Young to me. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are going to duplicate what if I talk about C.J. Stroud in a moment, which is playing in big games for a big time program and a big time conference. So obviously, the pressure is not too big when you come out of Alabama, playing in pressure situations like he has done, and has had great success in his career, won a Heisman Trophy. So I think yes, anything about Bryce Young would only be the negative would be obviously the height, but there are players that have worked around that before. He certainly has got the agility to work around that, and anybody who takes him knows that going in that he's not going to get any taller. So you just kind of tailor your offense around what he would do.
Jim Szoke with us from the Panthers Radio Network, talking a little Panther talk here. Up at the top of the draft, we're going to get a quarterback. We just don't know which one it's going to be. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. It does appear like the field's narrowed down to 2. Give me the pros and cons to Ohio State's C.J. Stroud as the number 1 pick in the draft for the Panthers.
And, I grew up in Ohio, so I'm a Buckeyes fan, so I'm probably not as unbiased as you'd want. I'm a big C.J. Stroud fan. I think,
good.
Yeah, he really is a guy that's, adds the height, obviously, at 6'3". Both of them are great kids from what we can tell. As far as just the character, it's not going to be a character issue with either one of them. And C.J. Stroud is in that category as well. I think he's got, from what I know and have seen from, again, my distance, a bigger arm than probably what Bryce Young has, slightly so. And maybe some of that is due to being 6'3" and having the height that he had. But again, played not only in a big time program, but played very well against the best team, Georgia, in the game that they had in the Final Four. So I think, to me, you look at what Ohio State was able to do with C.J. Stroud leading it and even showing a little bit of running ability with what he was able to do on top of what you knew as a pocket passer and so forth, that C.J. Stroud is probably about as good as it gets in this draft. And again, we don't know how good this draft is. So we're talking about the best of what is this crop. Is this a crop that's going to have the next Andrew Luck, the next Peyton Manning, the next, Patrick Mahomes, who knows? As we've seen in naming a lot of those kind of guys like Mahomes, it's not always the first guy that goes off the board that goes on to have a great career. We know that more than anybody, right? We had the first and third pick of the 2018 draft on the roster last year, and both of those guys are elsewhere now trying to still figure their way out heading into year 6 of their pro careers.
That's a good point. Having Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield here last year, just a couple years removed from being at the top of their draft, says a lot. There's a lot of hit or miss going on here. So the Panthers are doing their due diligence to make sure that they don't miss with this. I do respect the fact that they took so many people to these pro days, while at the same time, head coach Frank Wright, Scott Fitter, the general manager, they've been saying repeatedly that these days don't really make the decision. The pro day, the combine, that kind of thing. It's really more what they've done on tape. And it feels like I have to think from off those comments they've made, they've been pretty transparent with us since they took over. They traded up to number 1 with an idea of who they wanted at number 1, but they were willing to be talked out of it if somebody impressed them with any of these, pro day or whatever. But the tape is what made them move up to 1. And I assume it's for Bryce Young. I assume Young was number 1 on their chart when this all started, or C.J. Stroud, actually. Thinking back to the comments they made at the pro day with C.J. Stroud, makes me think maybe Stroud was the first one they had on their list, and Young is the one that maybe can dislodge him from that slot. Give me your take on how this front office is different than the previous regime, because they've been extremely thorough as opposed to what we saw from the guys that were here before.
Well, the big blanket over all that was Matt Rule when he was here. So it was run like a college program where the head coach had a lot of say-so in things beyond coaching X's and O's and getting his team ready for football games. It was a lot of being involved in personnel and really all things Panthers. So I think there's a proper structure in that. You have Scott Fitterer as the GM. You've got a seasoned NFL head coach in Frank Reich, who played in the league for 14 years at quarterback. And he's got a seasoned coaching staff, as you well know, with the assistant coaches he's surrounded himself with, and not a bunch of yes men. There are guys he's brought in. I think that will have conflicting ideas at times over an opponent, over a player, over whatever the conversation might be about. And they'll have a good conversation about whatever that is. He mentioned in his second press conference about Josh McCown, who played 17 years in the league as the quarterback's coach coming in, that as much as Frank played in this league and as much as Josh played in the league, Josh played in different types of offenses at times than what Frank played in. So they have different ways of attacking and seeing things in a different way. Sometimes coaches can only teach what they know, what they've been through. And I think he has surrounded himself with guys that are well-rounded that can add to that. And obviously Thomas Brown will add to that too in the coaching staff. So I think that's smart. Instead of having a dictatorship kind of a thing. I think you've got a big consensus in a group. Now somebody's got to be that final say, and I would think with personnel, I would hope it's Scott Fitterer, the GM. But again, that's with the consultation of everybody involved. But there always comes a moment where somebody's got to be the one that pushes the button and says, "This is the guy." Not just round one, but in any decision that's made. So I think they have a proper structure now for moving forward with that.
And like you said, they did say this week, I think it was Scott Fitter. No, it might have been Frank Wright when he was getting interviewed at the owners' meetings, where head or owner David Tepper has assured both Fitterer and Frank Wright that when it comes to the final decision on any of these players, it'll be up to those two guys to make that final decision, not David Tepper. So if people are thinking that the dictatorship just moved over to the ownership, I don't think that's it at all. In fact, the way Tepper went about allowing them to build his staff, he's kind of stayed at arm's length, like he's not in the way. He's not like Jerry Jones in it right now, but he is out there. He's out there. Like people know he's the owner of the Carolina Panthers, taking 2 jets or whatever to Tuscaloosa or wherever to watch these quarterbacks throw the football. Is pretty nuts. I want to talk about Dante Jackson for just a second, because people might have forgotten he tore his Achilles at the end of the year. Should the Panthers target a cornerback or a wide receiver? They've got the 39th pick, which is a high second-round pick. Basically, it's like a late first. And I think a lot of people think that they got gutted when they traded off to get the number 1 selection, but they have 6 picks in this draft still. And Scott Fitterer is known to move around the draft board and pick up picks as he sees fit. Do you think that they're going to start targeting some of these things like cornerback or wide receiver, or do you think they're in a position where they can just go best player available?
Yeah, I think that the goal through free agency has been to be where they don't have to reach for a position. Then your hope is that when you land, say, at 39 or whatever, through the 7 rounds, that it comes down to, one of those guys you value at around that spot on the board is a position that you want to add depth to or fill in at some point. And so I think part of that is, where is CJ Henderson now? He has some ups and downs in his stay with the Panthers. And obviously, I think we all think J.C. Horn is going to be a terrific player. And just the sample size we've seen so far, he looks to have, a lot of things that are really great. There are some things still to be worked on with his hands and defensive holding and certain things like that. But, I mean, he has, I think, the ability, maybe in year 3 even, to become at least a borderline lockdown corner. I won't go all the way there, but I think obviously a number 1 corner at least, and maybe a guy even contends for a Pro Bowl spot this year. But yeah, you want to have depth, obviously. You want to be able to move guys around. If Jeremy Chinn's going to be more of a nickel or a box safety, playing closer to the line of scrimmage and playing on the inside, you want to have obviously good rotation outside, defensive corner that you can rotate different guys in, because other injuries will happen in addition to how well guys play or don't play. But I do like, the addition of Von Bell into that secondary, so they've got experience in there. And I think we have guys like that have been around the league for a little bit. That helps the corners and it helps the communication all the way around with the defensive secondary.
Real quick before I get you out of here, Jim, you mentioned Von Bell. Who do you think in your mind, when I ask who's the biggest free agent signing or someone that was already on the roster that maybe they re-signed, who's the biggest one for you for Carolina to this point?
I think as far as who's at what stage of their career as opposed to what they might be or what they have been, getting Miles Sanders. I mean, getting a Pro Bowl running back coming from the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off a year where he ran for about 1,300 yards at 11 touchdowns. Early in his career, he was more of a pass catcher, and I think that just wasn't something Philadelphia needed with him, with the other guys they had at that running back position. But, they traded Christian McCaffrey away, and so that we've just been kind of, excited about what we saw last year with Deontay Foreman and some other guys at running back. But I think this gives you, really a high-level running back that you can plug in there that's of a Pro Bowl caliber once again. So I think that's great. And that makes anybody better as far as quarterback, helps your receiving game and all that. You've got to be able to traditionally run the football. And I think he can be more of a pass catcher than what he showed over the past couple of years in Philadelphia, maybe a little bit more like he was when he was a rookie. But yeah, like all the additions they've done at wide receiver, we know about tight end, backup quarterback and all that. But as far as kind of a guy who's right in his prime, who's a big time player, I think it's Miles Sanders.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. They've actually done really well. I've said Bradley Bozeman to me because solidifying the offensive line was like a key component to everything else they're going to do, especially if they're going to parachute a rookie quarterback back there. So getting Bozeman re-signed, having the offensive line basically committed through the next 2 seasons, I thought was huge. I love the Sanders pickup. I love the Hayden Hurst pickup. Pretty much loved everything they've done up to this point in free agency. They've really gone into it They said they had a plan. A lot of people say they have a plan, but then you never really see what the plan is. They said they had a plan, and it feels like they're following the plan. Whatever that plan was, they're doing it. They're going through it check mark by check mark. So we'll see. The draft still in a couple of weeks, late April. The 2023 NFL draft, we'll see who the Panthers separate and select with the number 1 overall pick. See what else Scott Fitter might have up his sleeve. Jim Szoke from the Panthers Radio Network. Happy to have you with us here this Saturday morning, sir.
Always fun. Thank you, Desmond.
Coming up, we've got Brandon Blakney, Tobacco Roads NBA and college basketball insider. He'll give us a quick look at Final Four storylines. Is this the wildest Final Four of all time, or just at least in the past 10 years? He'll give us an update on what storylines to follow tonight as the Final Four kicks off and caps off a wild finishes off a wild college basketball season. And don't forget, we've got that WrestleMania preview for you at the bottom of the hour with Michael Davis and Ryan Frick. You are listening to The Rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Are you looking for the next best soul food spot to please your palate? What if I told you there's one right under your nose? Welcome to Taste of the Triad, located in the old Bell Brothers Cafeteria, location at 4320 Old Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem. Authentic Southern comfort food in a family atmosphere. At Taste of the Triad, you can have Sunday dinner anytime. Baked chicken, fried chicken to order, the best meatloaf in the Triad, ribs, baked mac and cheese, and more. Check out Sunday Smackdown with beef and pork ribs, smoked turkey legs, collard greens, yams, and much more. Are y'all hungry yet? Did I even mention the live music on Sundays? Comfort soul food in the heart of the Triad. Taste of the Triad. 4320 Old Walkertown Road in Winston-Salem. Check out the menu at tasteofthetriad.com.
Are you concerned that if you passed away today, that your family would be left in a financial bind? Are you concerned that your nest egg is quickly eroding in the stock market? Do you want life insurance but confused about how to get it and if you would qualify? That's where I come in. My name is Terry Edwards with Secure Financial Partners, and I've been helping families over the last 20 years ensure the things that matter most: your life, your health, and your wealth. Give me a call today, Terry Edwards, 336-416-8327. Again, that's 336-416-8327. Your legacy is worth the call.
Maylor Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, located at 205 North Cherry Street in Kernersville, is your family chiropractor. Dr. Maylor's goal is to treat and correct the underlying cause of patient symptoms, to alleviate pain, and to restore balance. Maylor Chiropractic treats pain, sports injuries, injuries from auto accidents, and much more. Start performing to the best of your ability, pain-free. Give them a call and set your appointment today at 336-996-3737. Maylor Chiropractic in Kernersville.
Pardon me, B-Dot here, and as the voice of the Greensboro Swarm, PA for the Hornets, and the sixth man of Carolina basketball, I do it all. Just like Beamer Tire and Auto. Alignments, new tires, NC State inspections, oil changes, they do it all. And with 3 locations in High Point, Greensboro, and Kernersville, B-Dot and B-Tar, yes, we do it all. If you need details, visit BeamerTire.com.
Ideacom NC, a trusted telecommunications company with 60 years of experience in unified communications. Ideacom is about more than just phone systems. They provide a full range of communication solutions. Whether your business is big or small, from churches to schools to fire departments, depend on the best in cabling, phone systems, IT support, and more from Ideacom of Central North Carolina. Top-rated customer service that cares about your business needs. Check out all the host of solutions at IdeacomNC.com or call at 336-854-4455. Ideacom NC.
Hey, Panther fans, right now on the SiriusXM app, hear the most in-depth Carolina Panthers coverage anywhere with Believe in Carolina Panthers, part of the Believe podcast network on SiriusXM. Hear from me, Desmond Johnson, and my co-host, Skylar Callahan from Sports Illustrated, and Panther great Jonathan Stewart as we break down the Panthers before and after every game through the NFL season. Your team, your podcast. Search BLEAV in Carolina Panthers on the SiriusXM app, Pandora, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you believe?
This is Sam Farber, radio play-by-play broadcaster for your Charlotte Hornets, and you're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio on WWBG 1470 AM.
Welcome back into the rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM, TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. I'm your host every Saturday morning, Desmond Johnson, here with you. Getting you ready for a loaded sports weekend, and we've got you covered coming and going. With us right now, Tobacco Road's basketball insider Brandon Blakney checking in with us real quick. Bottom of the hour, we'll have Tap Out and Touchdowns Ryan Frick, and Drop the Mics Michael Davis with the entire second half hour of the show previewing WrestleMania weekend. 2 nights, we'll go through the entire card. So for all the wrestling marks out there, this is the spot for you. Before we get to that, though, it's a little something going on in Houston tonight called the Final Four. We probably need to discuss as we bring in Brandon Blakney. What's going on, Brandon? How you doing?
Hey, alive and healthy, my guy. Appreciate you having me on.
So I wanted to spotlight you as our basketball expert, basically going forward, because you pretty much are. You know about the kids coming up out of high school, like kind of like their backgrounds, where they played AAU, who their coaches are, all this stuff. So if there was anybody that I knew that I wanted to kind of spotlight this weekend to help me, because I'm a blue blood guy. I'm a Carolina fan. I got the shirt on and everything. So I'm not too familiar with the teams that are left in the Final Four. So I want to do this like Final Four for dummies, basically, where I want you to kind of help break down what we're about to see. San Diego State, the Aztecs, taking on they're playing FAU, Florida Atlantic, in the first game at 6:09, tip off tonight on CBS. All these games are on CBS this year, thankfully, so you don't have to go looking for TBS or TNT or whatever to watch the national championship game. I didn't realize, Brandon, this San Diego State team, they were actually really good during the COVID year in 2020, and we didn't get a chance to play that tournament. And there's kids on this team that were on that team. A lot of people were talking about how Kansas got their redemption because they were good in 2020, ended up winning it last year. Can you talk a little bit about this San Diego State team and what they've gone through the past 3 years to get to this point?
Yeah, as you mentioned it, like this feels like kind of like a redemption tour for these guys, not getting to play that tournament in 2020. They ran through conference play. Honestly, I knew this was a team that could get hot just because they're veteran and they have a really good group of guards that they can rely on. They're a deep roster. They play fast. They play really good defense. They've got length. Not really a whole lot of glaring weaknesses there. And I think people 5 team, they might be like a little softer, but FAU and San Diego State are 2 teams that aren't dunking smoke from nobody, and they haven't all season as we've seen them run through this tournament. But I think, this is like a redemption tour for San Diego State. They've got guys that have bought into the culture year after year after year. They've produced guys like Kawhi Leonard, like they've had guys come through there that are very talented. But this year, it seems like all the magic is clicking for those guys. And it's probably the youngest team left in the tournament.
I think they're probably the best defensive team in the tournament as well. They're ranked 4th nationally in their adjusted efficiency rating. And I noticed that their head coach, Brian Dutcher, I was like, why is he so familiar? Why is he so familiar to me? And it finally clicked in my head what it was. He was an assistant coach for Steve Fisher, who was the head coach of the Fab Five Michigan in 92, 93. And he's all over the Fab Five documentary, the 30 for 30. So when I heard the name and I saw the face, I'm like, who's Brian Dutcher? Why do I remember him? He took over for Steve Fisher when Steve Fisher got fired from Michigan, went to San Diego State. I think Kawhi played for Steve Fisher, if I'm not mistaken. And then Dutcher took over the head coaching role and has been head coach for the past 6 years after Fisher stepped down. So, and he's won 3 regular season conference titles, 3 tournament title or 3 conference titles in the tournament. They've been in the NCAA tournament for the last 5 years. It's not that big of a surprise that San Diego State is here. They defeated the 1 seed in this region in Alabama, and a Creighton team that was ranked top 10 most of the year. So, I mean, they deserve to be here. I mean, they didn't go through like a easy bracket or anything by any means. Alabama was the number 1 seed in the whole tournament, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And I'll tell you what, man, they did a really, really good job on Brandon Miller. Obviously, there's a lot of talk going on with him on and off the court, but they did a really good job neutralizing him, Javon Quinterly, and guys like that. And they really made Bama play to San Diego's strengths. They played a San Diego State pace game.
I think you froze up there for just a second, Brandon. My bad. I wanted to go into
Florida Atlantic. I'm trying to figure out Florida Atlantic because it seems like they aren't supposed to be here. They're a 9 seed. Usually it stops right at this point. If a seed this high gets here, usually they don't get to the national championship game, but they feel like they have a different flavor to them. They're 35-3 on the season. They're from Conference USA. We're familiar with them. University of North Carolina, Charlotte is in that conference as well. They just beat the 3rd place team in the Big 12. They're 2-1 against the SEC. How real is this Florida Atlantic team?
Man, I'll tell you what, does anytime that you can win 30 plus games, I don't care what division you're in, that's a tough feat to do. And you've got a good team if you're winning that many games. It's crazy, Des. They start 4 underclassmen. You usually don't see that with a like a smaller at this stage. It's usually a bunch of 4th and 5th year guys. These guys start freshman and sophomore mostly. I think John L. Davis, 6'4" guard, he's a sophomore, averaging I think 20 this tournament so far. I think he may have raised his draft stock. I don't know if he had any before this tournament, and he's probably raised his more than maybe anybody in the country, the way he's just been dominating teams and closing out games. They're deep. They play like 10 guys. They're scrappy. They've got a big 7'1" rushing guy, golden in the boards, and people can't contain him in the paint. They've got good size on the wings, 6'8", big guards. I think they're Brandon Witherspoon, senior leader for this group. I think they're a really, really talented group. And like I said, there's 4 underclassmen. They're not going anywhere after this year.
Wow. So they could be an issue. And then the second game, it kind of feels like it's going to be, I don't know, because Florida Atlantic's the wild card in all of this, but the second game at 8:49 p.m. on CBS tonight, Miami, the ACC champion, the 5 seed, taking on UConn, who has been blowing out everyone they've seen in this tournament. UConn might be flirting with the 2009 Carolina Tar Heel record. I think they still have the record for the most like the highest win margin throughout the tournament. It was like double digits or something, like almost 20 points per game. UConn's beating teams by like 15, 17. They are 29-8. They seem to be the favorite out of the field of 4. Real quick before I get your NBA thoughts, because I want to talk about this Western Conference real quick before I get you out of here. Who do you, out of these 4 teams, who do you expect to be in the national championship on Monday, and who do you expect to win it all?
I think it's going to be UConn and Florida Atlantic, and I'm going to take UConn. Jordan Hawkins is playing on a different level right now. It reminds you of that team, like one of those teams. It feels like one of those weird years where, UConn just kind of grabs a championship while nobody's paying attention type deal.
Everyone's gone. UConn is the last one left at the party. They're like, we'll just take this case of beer that nobody wanted to drink. We'll take it with us. So, I mean, it feels like that. For sure. The last Final Four like this was 2011, and UConn was the main culprit in that Final Four. It was them, Butler, VCU, and somebody, George Mason, somebody. It was some weird Final Four, and it was Butler, UConn in the final. And many people consider that to be the worst final of all time in terms of everything. So
I mean, ratings wise, it kind of was, but it just feels like one of them years where it's like, UConn's gonna grab one while nobody's looking.
Yep. Do you expect the ratings to be low because of the field with no blue bloods? Do you expect the ratings to be low when this weekend's over?
Honestly, no. I feel like people are loving the upsets. I mean, this is insane. I think Florida Atlantic has added thousands to their fan base. I mean, it's still been really good basketball, Des, to be honest with you. I mean,
I gotta admit, I got turned off first weekend by the number of teams that were shooting obscene amount of 3-pointers and couldn't hit them. Like, I can't count how many times I'd flip over using the March Madness app. I'd flip over to a random game at halftime, and you can see the stats like on the app or whatever, like as they're going through commercials or whatnot.
Yeah.
And one team would be like 2 for 16 from 3. The other one would be like 1 from 13 for 3. And the score is like in the 30s at half. They come out second half, they're still jacking threes. And I'm like, what happened to, punching it inside if you can't hit it? Like, I just watched my Carolina team go through a whole season of this, of not being able to shoot. And I realized it wasn't just Carolina. It's a lot of the whole of college basketball has devolved into this whole everybody shoot threes. It cost Virginia. It cost NC State. It cost a lot of teams. But those two in particular I could think of, they lost early, like first weekend, because they couldn't hit threes or score because they were only trying to shoot threes basically and shot themselves out of the game. Real quick, I want to flip over to the NBA real quick while I got you here because things just got interesting in the Western Conference. I'm sitting here looking at it. And matter of fact, let me just pull it up real quick because this is crazy. The way this is situated right now in the Western Conference, as it stands right now, the Nuggets are clearly the 1 seed, of course. The Grizzlies are sitting in the 2 spot, and they'll probably be there for a pretty good hot minute. But once you get past that and you start looking at this is insanity because I don't know who's going to come out of this. But look how they're grouped together from the 4 seed, the Suns, through the 10 seed Thunder. They are separated by 4 games pretty much. And all it's going to take for one of these teams is just to go on like a week-long streak to move from like 9 to 4 or whatnot. All of these teams are flawed in some way, except for maybe the Los Angeles Lakers sitting at 7, who are finally healthy and are finally clicking after that trade the trades they made at the trade deadline. Who's the most dangerous team in this group to you from 4 to 10? Because they would all be in the playoffs in some capacity, whether the regular playoffs all the way to the 6th seed where the Warriors are currently sitting, but they can't win on the road. 7, 8, 9, 10 up in the play-in tournament. So right now the Lakers are on the verge of that, but they are hunting down the 6, 5, and 4 seeds, the Suns, Clippers, and Warriors. If you had to pick a team right now out of all of those to make some noise in the Western Conference, who would it be right now this weekend?
I mean, honestly, with them so close, I think overall, I know you said 4 through 10. Overall, I would say the Kings are the most dangerous team in the West right now, in my opinion, just looking at it, especially for matchup purposes. But also, man, looking at the Clippers, that's a team that a lot of people aren't talking about. And I don't know, like, if you've noticed, but the Russell Westbrook hate, slander, and chatter has gotten a real quiet lately.
Oh, ain't nobody said nothing about him past couple of weeks.
Now that my boy out there doing his thing, I think, you know what I'm saying?
Where was this in LA?
Ain't nobody the Russ slander been real light.
He turned back to Oklahoma City. He turned back to Oklahoma City, Russ. All of a sudden,
you,
it's.
And I think if they can get that production from him, and they have a good bench. They've got a good core group of guys. Obviously, Kawhi and PG are going to have to be 100%. And yeah, man, the Clippers, they was missing that lead ball handler. And I think if Russ can do that, I think they're going to be all right.
So
then obviously, Des, we can't sleep on your Lakers.
Hey, healthy. I don't know which AD is going to show up from night to night. It might be 39-point AD. It might be where is AD? Like, like it's one or the other. But LeBron's LeBron. He's going to do his thing. And I'm falling in love with Austin Reeves, man. Austin Reeves is a dog.
How good? So y'all forgot all about Caruso. It's really Austin Reeves.
Look, we slipped as soon as they let Anthony Caruso go. They have not been the same team. A couple of those guys, Rondo, some of those vets they had on that bubble team that won the championship, they needed that, and it feels like they got some of that back, but younger, like Rui Hachimura and some of these guys that came in from these trades. They're starting to blend now, and they're starting to play through AD, like inside. That's what they needed to do in the first place. Play through AD, let LeBron facilitate. And honestly, I could see a Lakers Celtics final. Like these seedings, these seeds mean nothing to me in the West. Like the way the records are. Like, I mean, you could interchange any of them really, except for I don't even trust the Nuggets at 1. Like I really don't. Like if they end up getting, let's say they end up getting the Lakers round 1. Like who are you picking, the Nuggets or are you picking the Lakers? Like, see what I mean? Like
that's a bad look for them.
It is a bad look, or like even go above that. Say it ends up being like the Warriors, Nuggets Warriors round 1. Like who are you going to take in that? Like it's just all the Warriors got to do is win one road game. I know it's been hard for them, but I don't know. We're gonna go deeper into this as college basketball is ending. We typically send our attention to the NBA, so we're gonna get to this a little bit later on. Gotta let you go. We're about to kick off our WrestleMania coverage here. Brandon, his new episode of Live with Brandon Blakney just went up on our YouTube channel last night. It'll be in podcast form a little bit later on this weekend. Definitely check that out.
Check it out.
Good stuff. He's got plenty of other stuff over on that channel. If you want to get to his channel, you can go to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio channel, scroll all the way down. His channel is linked, so you can get over to his channel from there. So it makes it a little bit easier to find. So definitely go and check out Brandon's stuff. Brandon, we'll be talking with you soon, buddy.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Des. Later, man.
Coming up, Ryan Frick from Tapouts and Touchdowns, Michael Davis from Drop the Mic. They're going to be here to preview the entire WrestleMania card, nights 1 and 2. Any surprises on the way? We'll get to all that and more in just a bit. You'll listen to the rundown here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com, WWBG 1470 AM.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
One stop number 6, located just 1 mile site at 2748 West Mountain Street, Kernersville, a proud supporter of East Forsyth since 1983, serving fresh fried chicken and our famous taters 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. For a limited time, grab our Wife Saver family meal for only $13.99. 8 pieces of chicken and sides for 4 for just $13.99. One stop. Come see us at 2748 West Mountain Street in Kernersville. Maylor Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, located at 205 North Cherry Street in Kernersville, is your family chiropractor. Dr. Maylor's goal is to treat and correct the underlying cause of patient symptoms, to alleviate pain, and to restore balance. Maylor Chiropractic treats pain, sports injuries, injuries from auto accidents, and much more. Start performing to the best of your ability, pain-free. Give them a call and set your appointment today at 336-996-3737. Maylor Chiropractic in Kernersville.
Hey, y'all, Tiny's Mobile Auto. Is your car broke down? Are you stuck somewhere? Do you need a mechanic? You don't want to call a tow truck? Call Tiny's Mobile Auto. He'll come out to you, do your work, whatever you need done, your regular maintenance, or if you broke down on the side of the road, give him a call. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call 336-423-6241. You don't even have to see me. Just let me know what's wrong with your car, and I will come and fix it, y'all. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, I'm on the Twitters, whatever you guys need, 336-423-6241. As always, I'll be seeing you.
You deserve to get good service and great rates. At State Farm, we get it. And we're here to help, because with every State Farm policy, you get good neighbor service and you get surprisingly great rates. So what are you waiting for? Get going and talk to a local State Farm agent about your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
When you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Susanna Nunn in Kernersville today. Franchise players.
Welcome back. Sports Channel 8's Ben Swain. How you doing, man?
I love that you guys are doing what you're doing. I love that we're doing what we're doing, because the local sports fan is really underserved in sports radio here in North Carolina. Being able to, Monday morning after the New Carolina game, being able to listen to local guys talk about the local game.
Franchise players every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com and at 6 p.m. on WCOG 1320 AM and WTOB 988.
Back to the rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into the rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM. I am your host, Desmond Johnson. You can catch us every Saturday morning live here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. You can view the video at YouTube.com/Tobacco Road Sports Radio, where you can catch this show, Franchise Players, Drop the Mic. Tap Out the Touchdowns isn't there, but eventually we'll get them to link their channel over so you can get to them, and just much, much more. So if you are a sports fan in the Triad, definitely go and rate and subscribe the YouTube channel for Tobacco Road Sports Radio, and we'll just keep giving you that content. Right now, it is Wrestlemania weekend, and you guys know I'm a huge wrestling mark, and whenever I get a chance, I bring on other wrestling marks the same way. So I had to go get Ryan Frick from Tapouts and Touchdowns, which you hear every week on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, and Michael Davis from the Drop the Mic podcast and Out of Pocket with Michael Davis that you hear on our TGI Friday lineup. It is Wrestlemania weekend, fellas. It is dripped in bloodline main eventing both nights. I'm assuming we'll talk about that in just a sec. But let's get into the card. Tonight's card, we'll split this up. I'll take a break after night one, and we'll review night two. Just looking at night one, both these cards look pretty stacked as I'm looking at both of the cards. Of course, there's some filler in there, but we already know kicking off the show tonight, huge matchup, John Cena versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. Been a pretty good build for this one. Let's start off with you, Mike. Your thoughts on this matchup? Who do you think wins? How do you think this sets up here?
And usually, I'm glad both nights are stacked, because one night's usually better than the other. Night one's usually been better than night two. So for Cena and Theory to be kicking off WrestleMania weekend, I've been back and forth on this, but I'm starting to settle in on the idea of John Cena actually beating Austin Theory, and one or two options happening: Cena holding the title to SummerSlam where there's a rematch, or Cena coming out the next night on Raw, or I guess a couple nights after Raw, and doing his U.S. Open Challenge. Somebody debuts and takes the title away from John Cena.
I didn't think of that. That's actually pretty interesting because you don't have to keep it on Theory. Like Theory's getting built where he doesn't necessarily need the U.S. title. And actually, they kind of building him to be something bigger than the U.S. title down the road anyway, it feels like. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan? Is that feasible? Because I hadn't even thought about John actually winning the title tonight.
I mean, I like the idea, but it's not going to happen. I mean, listen, there's one thing about part-timers on WrestleMania that, we see a lot of guys come back for the star power and whatnot. Most of the time, they don't win. I mean, we saw The Miz take Logan Paul to a tag team win last year, but the individuals generally don't. I mean, we saw Goldberg in his third rendition of the Brock Lesnar trilogy, and at WrestleMania, and he lost. Brock Lesnar typically loses at WrestleMania.
No, he does not.
Yeah.
He beat the streak. He beat Roman like 2 or 3 times. And I understand.
When did he beat Roman?
No, he hasn't beat Roman at WrestleMania.
He beat Roman WrestleMania 34, New Orleans. He came away with that cocky grin.
Yeah, that's when Suplex City started, wasn't it? And that when he
that was the one where he lost to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins cash in. Listen, the idea that John Cena comes in once a year now. I don't see them all of a sudden like magically like showing up on a few shows every now and then, even if it's just to show up on Raw or show up on SmackDown this week to do the open challenge and immediately lose the title. Like, sure, it's going to put somebody over, but like, it's not feasible from a standpoint that like, who's the person that's going to come do it? Is it going to be Braun Breaker that beats John Cena? Is it going to be, what can I say his name? The guy with the long hair that's always going, is it Cameron Grimes?
Cameron Grimes.
Is it Cameron Grimes coming into you? No, neither one of those guys are going to beat Cena for the U.S. title.
What about Bobby Lashley? Because we don't even know if he's anything to do this weekend. What if it's Lashley on Monday night? Will that change?
He put out on social media that he's got an open challenge at WrestleMania that's not on the card, obviously because of the Bray Wyatt situation. So even that being said, like, I don't know. Theory goes over here, kind of like the Cena promo that he cut on him that like, listen, you don't gain anything out of beating me. You don't gain anything out of losing to me. And I don't see them with all this build they've had to Theory, letting Theory go over or let Cena going over Theory. I think Theory goes over. There's some gaga to it, but I don't see it. I don't see it being clean, but I don't see Cena beating Theory.
That's a good point, Ryan. I was in an argument with somebody in a Facebook group. I broke my rule. I said I wasn't doing that anymore. And I fell into a wrestling group last night after having a couple of beers. And I was just like, I did it again. And I was talking to somebody about the whole Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes thing. And they were adamant that this was Cody's time and this was the way it had to be and all this other stuff. And I'm like, but you're ignoring like 900 days of storyline. Like, like you're literally like, you're talking about what you want as opposed to what's best for business. And if anything, WrestleMania is what's best for business. How many times have we had an ending to WrestleMania in the past decade where we're like, oh man, why did they do it like this? Like, because they're thinking 3 months ahead instead of just ending everything right there at WrestleMania. So we'll get to Roman and Cody in just a bit because I got a couple of things to say about that one. Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Doesn't it feel like the 2 women's championships have not been promoted for this event? Because I haven't really heard about Bianca Belair versus Asuka at all. And in this one, it just hadn't really had the same. It feels like Charlotte wants to be a heel, but she's supposed to be the face in this. I saw the promo she cut not last or 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, and it came off as real cocky Charlotte Flair, but she's supposed to be the face. So it's almost like 2 heels fighting each other here. Real quick, what do you guys think is going to happen in that matchup? This Charlotte doesn't lose at Well, actually, Charlotte does lose at WrestleMania. What do you?
Not often though.
It's not very often. She doesn't hardly lose at all. But they've been pushing Rhea really hard. Is it time for her group Judgment Day to finally bring home some hardware?
Absolutely. I mean, listen. I think there's an original plan for this WrestleMania that shifted at some point. I guess because they decided to put Ronda Rousey with Shayna Baszler in a tag team match or in a tag team in general. And even that was supposed to be a tag team championship match where they won the titles at WrestleMania. And that's obviously not happening because they didn't know if Ronda was going to be healthy enough to go. So, listen, they tried to push this a couple years ago, Rhea versus Charlotte. Charlotte came back, won the title. I don't think Charlotte needs the title. I mean, she's already tied her dad's record, 16-time women's champion or something like that.
Something.
Whatever it is, she's already got inflated championship numbers as it is. So it wouldn't surprise me. And honestly, with all the build they've been doing to Rhea, they've had her beating up dudes for the last year, picking up and hitting her riptide on guys on the outside of the ring.
I haven't liked that aspect of it. It just makes it where you can't fight back, and I don't know. It's weird that they keep doing it over and over again too.
Well, it's doing to make her look strong, so that when it comes time for tonight, she beats Charlotte Flair, and it's believable. She's been beating up dudes for a year. Of course, she can beat up Charlotte Flair. So yeah, Charlotte does the job. Rhea goes over, and we got a new SmackDown Women's Champion. I wonder what it does for Judgment Day, because Judgment Day is typically a Raw branded faction. So I wonder what's going to go happen from there. But that's why we watch, bud. That's why we watch, to see what happens.
I didn't think about that too, in terms of it being the other show. I don't know if they would move Judgment Day over to SmackDown, although that would make sense depending on what happens at the end of the night Sunday, if they're trying to set some things up, because I have an idea of what they're trying to do with this main event. I'm going to skip past Becky Lynch, Lita, and Trish Stratus versus Damage Control, because to me it's kind of a filler match. I don't know if anything will happen there other than maybe Trish turning on Becky and Lita, but we'll see what happens there tonight. Seth Rollins, Logan Paul. I've seen a lot of people pick that match to be the surprise GOAT match of the night between the two. Their styles kind of similar, like they'll work well together. Do you guys expect a good matchup between those two? Mike, what do you think?
I would be so frustrated if they steal the show. And some guy came on Out of Pocket this week, and we're like, what match steals the show? And his name's Matt Cosgrove, and Matt's like, it's going to be Logan Paul, Seth Rollins. The wrestling guy in me doesn't want that. I feel like that's going to be Gunther, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus is going to steal the weekend. Like, why not? Gunther and Sheamus had a great match at Clash of the Castle. Add Drew McIntyre, add a WrestleMania crowd, 90,000 people in SoFi. That's the match that steals the show. But Logan Paul will pull something out of his hat. Maybe he does a selfie while doing it. Seth Rollins always performs at this level. I mean, it's going to be entertaining. I just don't want to give the credit to Logan Paul because he's not one of the boys.
Yeah, I feel that. Although I got to admit, the past 2 or 3 times he has wrestled, he has impressed me. He's done things I'm like, well, I didn't think he could do that, but he did that, or I wouldn't have done that, and he did it.
So did Bad Bunny. Let's be fair.
That's true. Bad Bunny came in, and I didn't expect a lot from him, and he did pretty well too. Kind of surprised he's not on this card. I thought that's how he had been training. Last one that I want to go through tonight, because I'm not going to do the Strowman Ricochet Alpha Academy Viking Raiders.
You don't need to.
Yeah,
they don't need to.
Like pre-show, I don't even know what's going on with that one. There's nothing on the line. I don't know. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. They've been building this match for months. It kind of feels like they're setting things up to be a Judgment Day kind of Saturday, because I feel like Dominic will probably go over Rey. He should, but you never know with WWE. Your thoughts on this real quick before I take a quick break.
With Dominic, he actually walked out on his father's Hall of Fame induction ceremony last night. Like, they were still playing it up to the story. Dominic once he joined Judgment Day, he has skyrocketed to, he has untapped potential right now in terms
he's
of
got
character.
X-Pac level heat right now in terms from the crowd. I haven't seen it like this in a while, where they don't even like him talking.
It's great, dude. Listen, yeah, Dominic goes over. I love the fact that they brought out the LWO shirts on SmackDown last night. I think now that Rey Mysterio's got some backup, we might have some Gaga on the outside of the ring. Now you've got Selena Vega to take on, to at least, send away Rhea Ripley, whatever the case is.
Away.
Yeah, listen, this has been one of the best told stories that WWE has done in a very long time. And that's knowing that what the Bloodline has done. That's why I said it's one of, not the best.
Yeah, it's number 2 to the Tribal Chief.
But the fact of the matter is that Dom goes over here. It's not going to be clean. I think it's going to set up for a return match at some point. And I think at that point, that's when Rey Mysterio finally retires. Like, I think there were rumors out that Rey was ready to retire prior to WrestleMania, and he was re-energized by this feud with his son. I'm curious to know, like, again, he's known him his whole life. I'm curious to know how good the match is, because one thing that I think one could argue is that Dominic isn't the best wrestler in the world. He's got, again, he's an athlete. He's got moves. He can hit certain things. But, like, I think this match between him and his dad, knowing how they've been playing wrestling for years, I'm assuming, that this you talk about matches that could steal the show.
Yeah.
With the relationship they have, this match could steal the show.
They've been working on this match for a decade, probably.
So I'm excited for this one.
I'm just going to keep it here. I saw what time it is, so I want to make sure we get through the whole card. Night 2. Let's go ahead and get into it. Again, Bianca Belair versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. Bianca's been champ for a year, right? I mean, she won
last WrestleMania
last year. Yeah. So, but it seems like ever since Triple H took over the booking, her path has been kind of lacking, to be honest. She hadn't really had much of a I don't feel like she's had much of an adversary other than Becky Lynch, and that was like half a year ago, it feels like, and now Lynch is back to being a face. They haven't really set this up. I haven't really seen anything about. I forgot it was on the card. Actually, I had to think about it. I was like, well, who was fighting for the Raw Women's Championship? Is this going to be one of those start off the night type of things, night 2, get it out the way type matchups? And I know Triple H was huge on Asuka when she first got here and booked her accordingly. Do you think he's trying to do the same thing and get Asuka back to where she was? Or do you think Belair retains?
I feel like Bianca Belair retains, being in Los Angeles, being in Hollywood. I think she's the bigger star. And the buildup has been lackluster for both women's matches, especially this one. But I feel like it's still going to be a good match in the ring. It'll last about 15, 16 minutes. Bianca goes over, and now you're still searching for who can take the title off of her.
I don't listen. I'm gonna be the contrarian here. I don't think either match was poorly built. I think everything has been overshadowed with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Bloodline. I think they've done a fine job building this match. They get them on TV. They've got Asuka coming out in like regular, like nice, like dress clothes, and then she pops the pill, and all of a sudden her teeth are blue, and she's ready to strike with the mist. They're taking her back to her New Japan roots. And I think it's been fine. I just think it's been overshadowed by everything else going on in WWE right now. That being said, I think Asuka goes over. I don't know if Trish turns on night 1, but at some point, you would have to think that they're going to put a title on Trish, because the rumors are she's going to be around until at least SummerSlam. And I don't think you want to put Trish necessarily in a feud with a Bianca Belair. And I think it'd be easier for her to go over someone like Asuka. And not to mention, like you said, Triple H was high on Asuka when she first came over.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's won a couple of titles. She's been a tag team champion. But she's never won like on the big stage, like at WrestleMania. So I think this is where we get our Asuka WrestleMania moment. She dethrones Bianca Belair. You never know if we get a Bianca heel turn at some point. So, so it's one of those things that I think Asuka finally gets her win here, and I think this match is better than we anticipated being.
I'm gonna go rapid fire through the next 3 so I can get to the 2 main events. Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. The Intercontinental Championship is the one belt that Sheamus has not won. Gunther has been champ for good Lord. Yeah, going on 300 days, I think, maybe. And then you got Drew McIntyre, who they have kept pretty clean even after he lost to Roman Reigns. They've built him to be, a dude. He was tagging with Sheamus for a while there. Clearly, they're not doing that now. Real quick, do you think Gunther retains here? Because they've kind of built Gunther to withstand some of this. I would imagine Imperium might get involved in this matchup since it's a triple threat. Does he retain, or who do you have on top of your mind that wins this? Is this Sheamus, WrestleMania moment?
Sheamus goes over, and Gunther gets propelled into the world title picture after WrestleMania. That's my prediction.
Gunther's the perfect guy to take over Honky Tonk Man's record as Intercontinental Champion.
I don't know how close he is to it. He's got to be close to it if he hadn't passed it by now. And that's something to consider. If they keep a belt on a guy this long, for them to take it off them right when he's about to pass something, they typically don't do that. They let New Day cross the finish line. They let Usos cross the finish line. Roman Reigns is close to 1,000 days as champ. I would assume that's going to happen there. Edge versus Finn Balor in a Hell in a Cell match. I've heard rumors that we might get a Brood entrance with Gangrel and even Christian, maybe on loan. That would be pretty cool. 90,000 going nuts and SoFi with the Brood coming out of the stage or whatever. Like that would be, and then you get maybe a Demon Finn Balor.
You are getting, we're getting Demon Balor, and Demon Balor's only lost one match, and it was because the rope magically broke in his match against Roman Reigns.
Yeah, the fear of Roman Reigns. Yeah,
Balor goes over here. There's no reason why he doesn't.
Yeah,
Edge is that guy who will go out on his back. This is probably his last WrestleMania. He's going to give it to Finn Balor to propel Judgment Day to a potential bloodline feud, maybe.
I think they might be setting up for this. That's what I'm kind of thinking. So if Finn wins that Hell in a Cell match, maybe he's the next one that they start building towards with Roman. It says Brick Lesnar versus Omos here on SI's website, but we know who he is. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. This is one of the more interesting matchups of this entire weekend. Brock usually doesn't lose, like in general. But it seems like they're setting this up so that this could go one of two ways. This could be Botch City, like the entire match. It could be something real quick, like Brock is known to have these little 4-minute, 5-minute, 45-second type matches. It could be something like that. Or maybe this is something to build to something bigger. Because Omos, he's with MVP. We've been seeing MVP backstage the past couple of months, talking to different wrestlers randomly and hinting at doing something. I feel like he's trying to rebuild the Hurt business. But they're trying to save it because Bobby is a face as it stands right now. And it feels like they're saving Bobby Lashley for Roman Reigns. They have not crossed paths intentionally. They're on separate shows. They don't come across each other at all. And it feels like that's in their back pocket to do Hurt Business Bloodline 4-on-4. And to get there, you have to eventually have them cross paths. To do that, though, you probably need to build up the rest of them. So does Omos get this win over Brock at WrestleMania? Or does Brock suplex Omos a couple of times and beat him?
I couldn't care less about this match. This will be the worst match on both nights. I don't care who wins. I don't care what comes out of it. This screams not Triple H, and this will be my. I call it the BBO, the bathroom break opportunity. That's what this is.
Lesnar's never looked like a child standing next to somebody. This is a once in a lifetime opponent for Lesnar. It's going to be cool to see him suplex Omos and lift him up for an F5. Lesnar goes over. I'm actually pretty excited for this 4 to 5 minute match.
Even when he fought Big Show a couple times, back in the day, he never looked as small as he does to Omos. But Omos is so green, and Brock isn't exactly the safest worker to work with in the ring either. So
Omos is the modern day Giant Gonzalez. He's awesome.
Yeah, pretty much. So
send him back to the performance center.
Yeah, let him just be the enforcer for the Hurt Business or whatever, and just stand there and look intimidating. Let's get to the main events here real quick. Night 1, I assume this is the main event. The Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. I will throw things at my TV if they put this on in the middle of the card and let Flair and Ripley main event. I don't think they're going to do that because of the build. This has turned into the Bloodline, man. This whole thing, this whole storyline has been one of the funnest storylines to follow that I can think of in years. Like maybe the Attitude Era, maybe NWO and WCW. I'm trying to think of maybe Evolution. I don't know. But this is so carefully layered. Each person in the Bloodline has something that they can pull off of in a couple of months. But okay, now we can do this. We laid the seeds for it way back here, and now we can do all this. And even when they do stuff that's not planned, Sami Zayn wasn't planned, to even join the Bloodline. And they were able to take that and blossom it out into basically the main event of the WrestleMania card. Do the Usos retain? Because I feel like, you think that okay. So
absolutely not.
And now Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes in the main event on Sunday night. Does Roman retain?
Yes.
No. Wow.
Yes.
So Ryan, you think Bloodline's going to lose all their gold?
Bloodline's going to go away until SummerSlam. This is their head off to the sunset vacation moment. There's no reason why they built the Sammy and KO storyline so they don't win their first tag titles. So there's your start. Second of all, from the time that Cody Rhodes came back to WWE last WrestleMania, this was planned. It's not going to change anything. And when I said that Gunther was going to enter the title picture after WrestleMania,
that's what I thought
it's because of the showdown that he had. He was number 1 in the Rumble. He was the last person eliminated in the Rumble by Cody. So we're gonna get Cody, and you might see a Cody partnership with KO and Sami Zayn, so that you've got this little trio against Imperium.
They've started to build that already, yeah.
And so Gunther's the next challenger, and he's going to be the first challenger for Cody.
I gotta. Okay, so I gotta say this. I find it hard to believe that WWE would let Roman Reigns be champion of the universe or whatever for 900 plus days just for him to lose it to Cody Rhodes when the man has beat Brock Lesnar twice. He's beat Kevin Owens twice. He's beat Edge. He's beat John Cena. He's beat Drew McIntyre. He's beaten everybody. So, and plus, so basically they would be saying, okay, this guy that came from our rival promotion, yeah, he came up here, but he's just now coming in from our rival promotion. We're going to say that guy is better than Roman Reigns on the biggest stage that he's never been on. He's never fought for a world title on a stage this big, and he's going to beat Roman Reigns? Like that doesn't make sense to me. Like,
what was the point? What was the point to bring him back and immediately say he's there to win the world title? Like, what's
to feed him to Roman? Like to feed him to Roman. Like you got to keep building up God, because otherwise it starts turning to what it was with Brock, where after a while they start throwing Samoa Joe or whoever just in front of him just so he had somebody. But this is different because they keep building up whoever it is. It's the same build they had with Drew against Roman, where they built Drew up to be a formidable. Hey, he might actually beat him, but then when you get in the match, you're like, they're not going to let him beat Roman Reigns. Like, it doesn't make sense for the long-term storyline. Now, I do agree that Roman's probably going to take a break after WrestleMania, but as we've seen, he doesn't have to lose the titles to take a break. Like, he can literally phone in promos. He can do a video promo if he wants. I mean, there's no one left for him to fight against really after this is over with for a little while. So you get a chance to kind of build it up. I've said that I thought the Monday after on Raw that Triple H would introduce a new world title for Raw. And it'd be the big gold belt. He's bringing that.
I think that's happening.
And they do some kind of tournament for that. And that's how you get a main title back on Raw without Roman having to lay down for anybody. And then when Roman comes back, you have it where you can build it where it's him versus Bobby Lashley or a rematch with Drew or whoever it might be.
Y'all aren't taking into consideration that Triple H ain't running creative no more.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Get out of here.
Vince ain't running it. We would know if a fish got thrown in the room because Vince McMahon came back into the booking room. We would know immediately. It'd be like random, like Street Profits in a clown hat on a pole match or something nuts, like just things that make no sense. Or we'd see the same matches over and over again.
Have y'all seen the picture of Vince from the Hall of Fame ceremony last night? With
the mustache.
He dyed his hair brown. He's got like the 1940s gangster mustache. It's hysterical.
He's trying to be Tom Selleck, but
I got to go check it out.
I'm just ready for the Usos to win or the Usos to lose tonight, and everybody's throwing a fit like the bloodline's falling apart, just for us to end night 2 with Roman Reigns winning
the title. Yeah, or just retain.
Keeps it till SummerSlam. He gets 1,000 days.
They're not going to let him lose his title this close to 1,000 days. No. Like, there's no point to even have him go this far with it if you're going to let him lose it at 978 or whatever it is. Like,
I'm inviting both of you onto my show, and y'all are both wrong tomorrow.
Okay,
would y'all? Yeah.
Does the invitation stand right if we're right? When we're right?
Absolutely not. I'm gonna pull a George. I don't know George. I'm gonna pull a George, and I'm gonna go off for a couple weeks. I'm gonna go elk hunting.
It's gotten to a point where I feel like the only way Roman loses these titles is by relinquishing them. Like if he goes off on a vacation or whatever, like you said, he's not gonna get pinned. He's just gonna come out one day and say, "Look, I told y'all when I came back in 2021, I was wrecking shop and leaving. It's time for me to leave," and he'll just leave. He'll leave the belts in the ring. He'll just leave, and then they'll do whatever at that point. And then he'll come back and do it all over again. But like right now, he's kind of like Thanos, like over everybody with the rings. Like, I mean, literally, how are you supposed to stop him? So I don't know if Cody Rhodes ends up being the guy that ends up stopping Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I'll tip my hat to him. Like, I didn't think you would do it, but this feels like one of those WrestleManias where the main event, you're thinking it should be this way, and it ends up being this way. Like whenever Brock would win a pay-per-view, and like you're like, come on, man, Samoa Joe could have beat Brock. Like, why did you do it like this? And Brock ends up winning anyway in the same manner. That's how I feel like they're going to do Roman versus Cody. But it'll still if they have a great match, it'll set up Cody going forward anyway for whatever they do with him on Raw. Especially that's what they did with Drew. So I don't know. We'll see it. We are I just realized we're 3 minutes past. We're past the time. We got to get out of here. Everybody, enjoy your Saturday. Final Four starts at 6:00. WrestleMania starts at 8:00 both nights. So definitely go. Get all that in, get all your snacks and pizza and wings and everything else. I just realized both of you guys had matching shirts on. You got the Bloodline shirt on. You got the New York WrestleMania shirt on with the red and black. So everybody, man, just enjoy the weekend. We'll be back next week. Rate and subscribe over at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Have a great Saturday.